Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. And on today's program, we will get some fire safety tips from Lorraine Carley. She's here from the National Fire Protection Association right here in Quincy. First, though, as always, we take a look at the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, some sunshine out there. It's very pleasant. 46 degrees, a little breezy, but highs today up around 50. The clouds will increase. It'll be a cloudy night tonight. Lows drop off to the upper 30s. That sets the stage for a gray day tomorrow. Lots of clouds around. Highs tomorrow in the mid 50s. The rain will arrive probably not till tomorrow night. Temperatures stay relatively steady in the upper 40s. Looks like it's a rainy day here on Wednesday, but it will be mild with highs Wednesday into the mid 50s, and then it clears out for Thursday with a mix of sun and clouds. Still pretty mild. Thursday's highs in the low 50s. Again, we have sunshine and 49 degrees in Quincy right now. Checking news for you today, the Quincy City Council will be setting the new property tax rates at their meeting tonight. Those new rates will be based in part on the recent property revaluations that were completed earlier this year. City Council President Noel DeBona says even though the council recently approved an extra $23 million for the new public safety complex, there will be no more spending on that project.
If the administration comes back for another appropriation of funding, I don't think they'll get the votes from the council. There's a couple of councilors on the fence that would have probably maybe have went the other way. So I don't foresee, this is it. This will be the $23 million that they have to finish the project. And if they can't do it in that 23, they're going to have to probably downsize some areas, which would be terrible. But I don't foresee the council getting more than 6 votes next if they come back for another appropriation, because we didn't foresee this one. But when the construction costs came, we fully understood it. So you got the $23 million. You're going to do it. It's very good for the public, for the first responders, police and fire to get this public safety headquarters in order. But the price tag is definitely ballooned quite a bit.
The current residential property tax rate in Quincy is $11.98 per thousand. The commercial rate, $23.86 per thousand. The average residential tax bill went up about $230 this past year. The majority of the city's $345+ million annual budget is funded from property taxes. Well, as the investigation into the brutal kidnapping and rape of a woman from the Wollaston MBTA station continues, Quincy police have stepped up to help the victim. Mayor Thomas Koch says that officers didn't want any recognition for their good deed to assist the 64-year-old victim and her family.
There's another thing that has been very kept quiet, Joe, and it was at the interest of the police department themselves. They were so moved by what occurred to that woman that at the police station, they took a collection up amongst the officers and raised significant money towards the woman's bills related to her medical bills based on this incident. I mean, that's the kind of police department we have. People are so quick to criticize all the time. It drives me crazy. We have incredibly trained, very professional, and officers with empathy for the community they serve. They serve with compassion and dedication, and I can't say enough about it. And they wanted no publicity about it. They refused to have anything in the newspapers or on the TV about it. And that's true charity, Joe.
Mayor also praised the police department for the quick capture of the suspect in that case and credited that to the continued efforts to add new patrol officers to the Quincy force. He said there were 144 officers on the department when he took office in 2008, compared to 185 patrol officers today. Chief Paul Keenan said the crime was one of the most horrific he has experienced in his 40 years of police work. And Keenan urged the public to report any suspicious or criminal activity. He said there would be no questions asked about immigration status. 77-year-old John Sullivan of Quincy will be back in court Wednesday after police say he struck a man with his car twice in Quincy Center Friday in a crime that was motivated by hate. Sullivan allegedly struck an Asian man after a verbal confrontation on Washington Street in front of the Quincy Center post office, telling the man to, quote, go back to China. Police say the victim was on the hood of Sullivan's car was then tossed into a 10 to 15-foot construction ditch on Foster Street. Sullivan was arrested on Quincy Avenue in Braintree after a witness followed him and called police. He pleaded not guilty to multiple charges and is being held for a dangerousness hearing Wednesday in Quincy District Court. The victim suffered multiple injuries but refused medical treatment at the scene. Governor Baker says there have been tremendous improvements in the treatment of substance abuse since he first took office 8 years ago. During a roundtable discussion about the issue at the New Way Recovery Center in Quincy last week, Baker told a story about a woman who approached him after going through recovery for addiction and credited Joanne Peterson of Learn to Cope for helping to bring the issue into the light.
There was something about her voice. I turned around and she came up to me and she said, "You gave me this bracelet 2 years ago when I saw you at another event, and you gave it to me and you told me to go and that it would help me and my son deal with his problem. And the reason I'm chasing you down is I want to give it back to you because it worked. And my son's in recovery and we're doing well, and I want you to give this bracelet to somebody else." And the pay it forward element in recovery is so important, and it truly has been in some ways one of the most amazing acts of grace that all of us have witnessed firsthand over the course of the past 8 years. And honestly, Joanne, you guys pay it forward every single day, and you're a really special group, and we are so lucky to have you.
Thank you so much.
Baker encouraged Governor-elect Maura Healey to continue and expand the state's efforts to help those addicted to opioids seek help, and to also support existing and new programs to help remove the stigma of addiction. Well, a Medfield woman is being honored as a Norfolk County hero by the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office. Judith Foster was recently recognized for her efforts in helping victims of trauma recover through her nature healing walks and programming with the Healing, Empathy, Redemption Oasis, or Hero Nurturing Center. Foster founded that center in Boston after the murder of her son in 2013. The center offers nature walks, but also recently expanded to include service trips to Cuba for first responders and environmental justice reform advocacy. Foster will be recognized with a plaque and honored at an upcoming ceremony hosted by the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office. Those hero awards were created to recognize acts of heroism, community building, and public service by residents of Norfolk County. That's our check of news today. Coming up, we sit down with Lorraine Carley from the National Fire Protection Association here in Quincy. Some fire safety tips for the holiday season next. Welcome back. It is that time of year when we are decorating, we are cooking, we are heating, and we want to be safe with all of those things. The folks at the National Fire Protection Association right here in Quincy can help us do that. Welcome, Lorraine Carley, back to the program. Lorraine, great to see you again.
It's great to see you. Thanks for having me. It's been a while since we've been able to do this in person.
It has,
so really
yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to many more
Yeah,
going forward
absolutely.
as well. Perfect time of year, too, to have you come back, right?
It is a great time of year to be back.
Yeah.
As everybody says, it's the most wonderful time of the year. But from our perspective, that's true. But there's also a fire safety time of the year as well as we head into what is some of the more common months for fires.
As you said to me before the program, it's the trifecta
Yeah,
for the NFPA.
It's a bit of a perfect storm this time of year between holidays, winter, people turning on their heat maybe for the first time or the continuing time. So there's a lot of things that we can remind people about from a fire safety perspective.
Right, like the two announcements that we just saw from Dan, Don't Be a Doofus, right?
Yeah, Dan Doofus is a great little character that we created a few years ago. He does, in a kind of funny way, tell people how they can be safer from different types of fire, and he's been very popular and a good deliverer of the message for us.
Yeah, we'll keep running those here too.
Yeah,
for
thank you. I
folks.
appreciate that.
Maybe for folks who aren't familiar with the NFPA and its mission, maybe a little refresher course if you could.
Sure. The National Fire Protection Association is now 126 years old, and we are based right here in Quincy. We are a self-funded nonprofit that is devoted to keeping people and property safe from fire, electric, and other types of hazards.
What would you say are some of the main things that folks would be aware of that the NFPA is behind when it comes to fire safety?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the most common things people might be familiar with is Sparky the Fire Dog.
Sure.
Sparky the Fire Dog is our mascot. He's in his 70s now, so been around a long time. So people might remember him from their school days when people taught stop, drop, and roll and learn not to burn and those kinds
Yep.
of things. And Sparky has morphed over those 70-plus years, but still really valuable in teaching fire safety, particularly to young children. It's
Yeah.
a great way to get the message across in a more lighthearted and kind of gaming way. He has his own website now and his own social media channels, so people can get lots of information, whether it's parents or kids. I think also people might be less familiar with who NFPA is, but very familiar with the messages that we develop and deliver.
Yes.
Things like smoke alarm messaging and all of those kinds of fire safety messages that we talk about throughout the year.
Yeah, and things that are commonplace in our everyday lives that you might not be aware of. Just in
Yeah.
this room, there is a fire alarm system. There's
Yeah.
a fire extinguisher. Things
Are there
like that.
sprinklers?
There are sprinklers. Let's hope they don't go
That's-
off right now.
That's great.
Yes.
That's true, and I
Yeah.
think people don't recognize all of the safety aspects around them, but we always say you don't have to walk too far in your home or your neighborhood or your workplace to see some influence of NFPA. One of the examples I often use is the reason that doors push out rather than pull in is
Yeah.
so that you can quickly get out if something's happening in the building.
Yes, yes.
Here in Boston, they just recognized the 80th anniversary of the Coconut Grove nightclub fire,
Right.
which today still is the deadliest nightclub fire in this country. And a lot of those deaths occurred when people tried to get out through a revolving door and then got stacked up in the door. Today, because of code changes as a result of that, you would not see a revolving door without exits beside it
Right.
to help people be able to get out quicker.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And-
so lots of influence that we've had over safety in that 126-year history.
Right. What about in people's homes, Lorraine? You know, what are some of the common things that folks have in their homes because of the new codes, and what things should they be aware of when it comes to keeping
Sure.
safe? Yeah.
Probably one of the most influential things in fire safety in homes is the use of smoke alarms, which became much more commonplace in around the late 1970s or so. So today we require that smoke alarms be placed on every level of your home, inside each bedroom and outside each sleeping area. So that is really critical in safety, especially today, because if you do have a home fire today, you're actually more likely to die than you were in 1980 because of the fast speed at which fires occur. We used to tell people that if you have a fire in your home, you're probably going to have 8 to 10 minutes to get out. That's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Today, because of the way homes are built and the things that we have in our homes, much more synthetic materials that burn quicker, a lot of electronics, so those things tend to burn faster, give off a really toxic smoke. So you could have as little as 2 minutes to get out.
Wow.
So the real safety message there is making sure that you have those working smoke alarms and that you develop and practice an escape plan with your
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something you said to me right before the show this morning that stuck with me is most of the materials in our homes are basically hard gasoline.
Yeah, when you talk about those synthetic polyurethane foam
Yeah.
materials. If we think about maybe going to visit our grandparents, or you go to an antique store, you see those old heavy couches with big thick cushions made out of natural materials,
Yeah.
cotton
And metal
fibers,
springs inside.
metal springs,
Yeah.
big thick wooden legs.
Yep.
Those things tended to burn much slower than what we see today, which is that polyester or polyurethane foaming that go up very quickly, and that addition of the toxic gas,
Yep.
thick black smoke. Because sometimes when I talk about this, people say, well, I would know how to get out of my home. I live here, I go out that front door every single
Right.
day.
Yeah.
But you would be amazed how quickly you would be overcome and disoriented by that smoke.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
knowing what to do the minute the smoke alarm goes off, where to get out, what's your second exit if that first one is blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing that people discount is the effects of the fumes, because
Exactly.
that's what gets you before. You think fire, oh, it's just a fire. I'll just walk around
right
it,
by
you know?
it. Yeah. Yeah.
But the
No.
fumes are going to affect you much quicker.
Much quicker.
Yeah.
So being able to understand that and know exactly what to do. So that smoke alarm goes off, you're moving right out the door,
Right.
or out a window if that doorway is blocked.
Yeah.
And keeping all of the exits to your home uncluttered.
Sure.
Yeah.
And make sure that those detectors are functioning.
They're working,
right? Yeah.
working smoke alarms, because still today we see the vast majority of fire deaths occur in homes that have no working smoke alarms.
Okay.
Either they don't have them at all, or the ones that they have don't have the right batteries or have worn out.
And the technology of detectors has changed over the years too.
It has.
Right? Yeah, they're
The
much
smoke
different now.
alarms are much better than they were before. We now have what they call long life batteries,
Mm-hmm.
which you typically get almost 10 years out of, so you don't have to worry about that. There are newer alarms that are less susceptible to nuisance alarms, because oftentimes you'd hear people say, well, I was cooking something, the smoke alarm goes off, so I disconnected it. So better smoke alarms, interconnected smoke alarms, which is important, because if you have a fire in one area of your home and you might be a good distance away,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're hearing it.
Sure.
So the alarm goes off in one place because of a fire, those alarms in the rest of the home go off as well,
Yep.
so that you can get that jump start
Yeah.
on the fire to be able to get out the door.
Early detection is the key.
That
right?
is really the key.
Yeah. And in addition now is CO detectors in addition. And that's a combination unit you can get too, right?
Yeah,
with
you can
both?
get
Yeah.
combination, but carbon monoxide is really important, especially as we head into the winter months, because oftentimes you could have a malfunctioning heating appliance
Yep.
or something. Snow could block the fumes getting out of your home, so there's things like that you want to be careful of.
Sure.
Oftentimes too, winter storms, so your power might go out, you use a portable generator, that may give off CO, and if it's too close to the home, so there's all kinds of safety messages around that as well, Joe.
Yes, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
important to keep those. Is there a code for CO detectors? Just
There
like
is.
smoke
It's
detectors?
actually part of the detection and smoke alarm code
Oh,
that we have.
okay.
Lots of jurisdictions require them, as we do here in Massachusetts. So that's another important safety thing this time of year, in particular.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen some improvements, Lorraine, in fire safety with all these code changes?
Yeah, in fact, we did a report last year that we looked at the fire safety problem since 1980, and certainly there have been tremendous progress. We see far fewer fires, far fewer deaths, but that rate of death, because of what we were talking about earlier, is starting to creep up.
Okay.
We used to see about 7,000 or 8,000 people a year die in home fires.
Across the country?
Across the country.
Okay.
Today we see about a little less than 3,000. So
Okay.
the numbers have gone down, but we do see fires that are more deadly because of those things. But the big success that we found is that mandated codes and standards and technology. So the use of smoke alarms had a significant impact on those numbers, as did public education. So what we're doing today is really important,
Yep.
because when people understand the risk, they're much more able to take the right actions.
Sure.
Because I think, unfortunately, because we've had such success in bringing the numbers down, we battle a little bit of complacency.
Complacency, sure, yeah.
People think, it's not going to happen to me,
Yeah.
or I can get out of my home quickly, or I haven't seen a fire in my neighborhood,
Yeah.
so that's always something that's going to happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
So complacency is a big piece of what we do have to battle, and that's why public education is so critical.
Yeah. Have you seen the fire service adapt over the years to fighting fires and educating the public?
Yeah,
about
and
fires?
well,
Yeah.
the fire service has always been the biggest educator of the public.
Sure.
It's the fire service, it's teachers, and then parents. So when we think about that, but the fire service is very much in tune with what they see in fire today, so being that changing educational message. We all benefit from newer technologies, but sometimes those technologies come with different risks. A big one that we've been talking about a lot lately has been lithium-ion batteries.
Yes.
They're in everything, but when they have a fire associated with them, it's a big fire, and it happens quickly. People use those e-scooters and e-bikes.
Yep.
The batteries associated with those, you have to be very careful. We've seen a lot of fires in homes, on college campuses. New York City has done a lot of work, because you can imagine closed density, a lot of people using those e-bikes. How do they charge them? Where do they charge them? So the risk associated with those, people just have to be aware.
Okay, yeah, those are very intense, high heat fires too,
High
right?
heat fires,
Yeah.
and we know even from electric vehicles, if you
Yes.
have a fire in an electric vehicle, those batteries have a lot of power in them and take a lot of water to suppress those
Right.
types of fires.
Yeah, I know there are protocols that firefighters have to follow if they respond to a crash involving
That's right.
an electric vehicle.
And NFPA has been on the forefront of developing training for first responders. We're now very active in the public education component of the e-scooters, what they call e-mobility devices, so that people are very careful about using the charger that came with the device. Don't charge them in your home if you don't have to,
Okay.
things like that, because oftentimes what you see is somebody might charge it in their home right in front of the door, because
Okay.
they use it to go out the door.
Sure,
So
yeah.
if there's a fire, not only do they have a fire, now they've blocked their exit.
I see, okay.
So it's a little bit of a double whammy
yeah,
there.
things you wouldn't think of.
Right.
But, when you
Yeah.
when you spell it out and you put it in perspective. it's
Like I said,
yeah.
we benefit from new technology, which is great. They help us in every aspect of our life. Just have to make sure that we're thinking about the risks, and how do we train for that, and how do we educate people so that they can be safe.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of the new housing developments that we've seen in the region are wood frame construction. So is that a concern when it comes to fire safety?
From a safety standpoint, there are codes and standards that will apply to those types of buildings. So if they're being built to, and what we advocate for is being built to the latest codes and standards, so it takes into account new forms of building and making sure that they're built appropriately, so that again we can minimize risk.
And again, fire suppression systems,
Yeah,
fire
the right
detection
fire,
systems.
exactly. Yeah. And though typically what we're seeing in these wood buildings is they're high rise, or
Yes. Well, 6
multiple.
stories, I think, yeah.
So they're going to have sprinkler systems.
Okay.
They're going to have alarm systems. So they're going to have all of those safety features that we know have been so instrumental in reducing loss.
Do you ever think we'll get to the point, Lorraine, where we have sprinklers required for residential
I sure
construction?
hope
You
so.
do?
And
yeah.
so one of the other roles that I have at NFPA is I also serve as the president of the Home Fire Sprinkler Coalition, which is an education organization that really is just promoting the value of home fire sprinklers. Because if we think about all of the scenarios that we talked about, if you have a fire in your home, you are far likely to survive if you've got home fire sprinklers, and you're going to have reduced loss. We would dramatically reduce the fire problem in this country if every new home was built with sprinklers.
Wow, that's
yeah, so
profound
we
statement
have
right there.
the
Yeah.
awareness, we have the technology. We need to be able to get that moving forward more so than we are right now.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask you just real quickly in a couple of minutes that we have some quick home safety tips during the holiday season.
Sure. As we get into the holiday season, as we mentioned, it's kind of a convergence of some of the leading causes of home fires. If we talk about cooking is the leading cause of home fires, so with a lot of people around cooking for the holidays, pay attention to what you're cooking. Make sure that you keep anything that can burn a safe distance away from your cooking top. Heating fires, same thing. Space heaters, making sure everything is a safe distance away, because those types of fires can be particularly deadly. Pay attention to all of your electrical devices, things that you're lighting decorations with. Make sure they're in good working order, not frayed or anything. Use of candles increases this time of year, so same thing, keeping anything that can burn away, making sure that they're extinguished when you leave the room, you go to bed for the night. So just really paying attention to some very common sense items and things that you can do to be safer. And then above all, make sure you have those working smoke alarms in the event that something does go wrong.
Sure.
Yeah.
NFPA.org, good place to go.
Absolutely,
Right?
good place, and Sparky.org as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
A very safe and happy holiday season to you.
You as well, and all of your viewers, and appreciate the time and being able to connect in person again, Joe.
It's our pleasure. We'll see
Yeah.
you soon. Thanks
Take
again.
care. Yeah.
Just enough time to check the forecast for you for the rest of the day today. Kind of what you see is what you get. Lots of sunshine and pleasant temperatures, right around 50 degrees. A little breezy out there. Tonight, temperatures drop to the upper 30s. It'll cloud up, and that sets the stage for kind of a gray day tomorrow. Still pretty mild, mid-50s. The rain holds off till tomorrow night, and then it lasts all day Wednesday, with sunshine returning here on Thursday and highs again in the low 50s. Thanks again to Lorraine Carly for joining us today from the NFPA. Thanks to our crew. Thank you for watching. Friday here on the show, we'll learn about online programming at Quincy College. Meantime, check out our website anytime. It's qatv.org. You'll find our latest programs there. There's news and information, video on demand, live streaming, and a whole lot more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.